Okay, so thank you for coming here. There are a lot of people. So before starting, a quick question also. Who already heard about Georg Fischer? Okay, not a lot of people. So actually, we are a Swiss company with over 200 years of history. So we are one of the first actually industrial companies in Switzerland. And one of our ADN is really innovation. At the basis, we have 3 main divisions, and you see that actually every division, starting with piping systems, have a first and actually this innovative DNA inside. Coming with the first malleable iron fitting, I'm pretty sure a lot of you actually have in your house or the workplace pipes that comes from piping. We also actually have the second one, which is casting solutions, and here are more on the automotive side. And the last one, the division where I belong, actually, it's machining solutions. And here also you see we are the first one to actually have the first machinery built in Switzerland. So, as I mentioned, we are really state-of-the-art. Everything we are looking forward. Our motto is going forward, so we are always looking to be on the top of the technology and the innovation side. And for that, we also have a global presence. And you might ask why I'm talking about that, but actually, as you have seen, just in the previous, we only have seen actually regulations about Europe, but us as a company with a global presence, actually we have to look into everywhere, not only Switzerland and not only Europe. So now machining solutions, it's the youngest of our divisions, and we also have quite a huge presence. But mainly in Switzerland, so we have the researchers here in Switzerland, but also in China, US, Sweden. Again, all these global presence that have a big impact. What we are doing? Actually, for example, who has a mobile phone? So basically, you have something in your hands that have been produced in a way with our machines, right? So, what we are doing through different technologies, and you can see here, we are using, for example, EDM machines or milling machines. We are in the industry of precisions, right? This is what we are doing. And we also have robots. We are also in the spindles, so quite a large part of these industries. So as I mentioned, I ask you about your phone because, as you can see, we are touching a lot of the daily basis. You don't see us, right? I think it was less than 10 people who raised the hand when I asked you if you know Georg Fischer. But if you took the plane, if you have a bottle of water right here, all these are actually linked with GF in a way or another, without knowing. So let's get back a little bit with what the topic of today is. All these machines actually generates data. They are generating a lot of data. And for us, these data are quite valuable, right? It's not only about the final product, but how we can improve the process, how we can make our customers produce faster, more accurate, in a more efficient way. So what we are doing with the data, first of all, we put all this data all together, right? This is a lot better to have it in one place. And then, oh, sorry, I was a little bit too fast. And then we are trying to create services around this, right? We call that digital services. So first and foremost, we allow the customers to have access to this data to understand a little bit better what's going on their machines, but also to connect with our customer services, etc. And we're also going into the digital twin. right? We are looking into, based on the data that we are uploading and getting from these machines, we are trying to build a digital twin of the machine itself, of the part that is produced on the machine, and also the process. And last but not least, we are looking into actually beyond just the machine, but also what's going on before and after, the whole entire process, right? So we are looking into what we call intelligent manufacturing. As you can see, I never mentioned until now the AI, because for us, AI, it's a tool. What is most important is the data. This is actually the bottom of our challenge, or the start of our challenge, before going into actually algorithms and all the application. But data is the fuel, right? It's the oil, I think you mentioned. Yes, it is the oil for intelligence artificial. Without the data, your algorithms, it's basically useless. So first, what we concentrate is how we can connect data. And what we are trying to achieve, because one of the challenges is actually all our machines in the past were speaking their own language, their own protocols, and they were sending their data in whatever format they wanted, right? So that's why we started by looking and having actually a standard way of communicating and a standard way of understanding what are the signals that the machine are sending, basically. And then we try to store them, right? This is the second part. Once you have all the data, what you do with them? You store in order to actually give you the ability to treat them. And in that perspective, lucky for us, the cloud is there, and we are trying to make advantage of that power. And last but not least, we still are a business, right? So we do not do that for nothing. We are trying to actually valorize it for our customers, and then create applications that bring values to the customer and to the company. Okay, so we have seen what we are doing, and basically, what we are doing for a couple of years now, actually, so you already mentioned, it's not just pop up the topic, it's been on the topic for several years now. We actually use AI in different formats through all the value chain. Right. You have here a couple of applications where we are using AI or machine learning in different ways. So, for example, our R&D process engineers, they are using that to actually make more efficient applications that goes into our machines, or customized applications that go into our machines. This is already something that we are using. We also use it actually to make our customer more efficient by, for example, very early detection of defects in the parts that are made. Or another way to do it is what we are doing is to do the setup which is appropriate for the machines, and also so that the machines are actually working more efficiently from start. But what I wanted to actually make a little bit of a focus in on two particular application. The first one is actually the customer assistant, and this is basically the application where, let's say, OpenAI and generative AI kind of bring it to the surface as a hot topic. What we realize in the company, we have a lot of sources of knowledge, right? It's a highly technological company, so we have user guides, of course, but we also have hundreds of actually support tickets where we explain different problematics. We also have all other sources in our knowledge center, from the technicians that go on the field that are all with the machines, etc. And we also have all the data from the machine, right? So globally, from different sources, we have a lot of information out there. And then we realize that currently it's actually in the minds of the people, right? We have a couple of experts who have good knowledge and understanding of that, and then it's not very efficient to rely on just a couple of experts. So how we can make profit? So we say, why, great, ChatGPT can give the answer instantly. Why not applying? Okay? So we start playing with that, and of course it looks very, very interesting, but a couple of questions have arisen. And here I just pop up some which are more linked to the topic of today. But what about actually the intellectual property? Because we have a lot of that in our machines and in our documents that are there, right? But not only our own IP, but also the IP of the customer, because the application that the customer are actually putting in our machines embeds a lot of their actually business knowledge. So it's a big question. So for example, how we can make sure that someone uses our actually assistant and put the question, how your machine is built, and then gets the whole schema of our machines, or things like that. But also, what we have faced, as you saw, we are a global company, right? We have machines all over the world, including in China, including in the US, and we also see a glimpse of the ongoing regulations. And I think, I don't know if you noticed, there was somewhere there saying that US, China are actually already having a lot of activities ongoing on that. And it's true. From the beginning of this year, I think there is a couple of laws already coming in China, and specifically on the cross-border data. Okay, so that's actually quite impacting for us, and what would be the limitation for us when we want to put everything together. And last but not least, it's about actually the content ownership and responsibility, right? When the customer puts a question, gets an answer, if the answer is correct, great. If the answer is incorrect or half incorrect, who is responsible for that? Who owns and who is responsible for the content? So all these questions actually pop up, which are not necessarily technical questions, right? The second one is actually something which is more, let's say, traditional machine learning. What we are trying to do here is so our machine is a system. And within our machine, for example, typically in the milling machine, we have tools that are used to drill, right? And those tools, for example, are not provided by Georg Fischer. They are provided by tool manufacturers, others. And here, in order to give some value added for the customer, where then we can predict, dear customer, with this tool, you can actually still use it for X amount of time or for X amount of jobs of the machine, we need the data from what's going on the tool. Right? So here the question is, we are actually dependent on the overall system. Our machines are not actually isolating in that perspective. So here the question that we have is data ownership. Who owns the data that are generated by the tool, by the machine? Who actually can use them, right? So, what we have found, and with only these two, I saw there is a lot of IT experts, right? So basically, technically, let's say, the technology, of course, this is a challenge, and this is something we have to take into consideration. Any business people, product manager, something like that? No, oh, okay. But so we look at the technology and we look at the business cases. This is usually the topics we are actually looking into a project. Why? What's your business case? Okay, here's the technology solutions. But as you see, and what we found out, and this is more and more present actually with AI, is that this is not enough. This is not enough because actually the regulations put constraints on us, on the technology, and on the business models. So basically, if you're just looking on the business, the use cases and the technology without taking into account what is happening actually in the policy and the regulations world, you might be blocked down the road. You might not be able to actually put it on the market. So this circularity you have to take into account. The second part, actually, that we found out is because we are not in an isolated environment. We are on the manufacturing plant, on the customer, who has hundreds of other providers, hundreds of other equipment. We cannot just play by our own. This is, yes, I mean, we can, but if we do, we have a very limited, actually, added value, even with all the data that we generated, and we generate a lot. So basically, and this is actually one example from the second use case, the second application that I showed you, we actually have to interact with all the other actors into the ecosystem. So for us, the ecosystem is actually essential. So what we are actually very quite independent is on interoperability data ecosystem. We have that ecosystem where we can play so that we have necessary data to really have valuable, actually, models, right? The models. I think Pierre explained very well, the more complex the model, the more data you need. So, first, how we solve these two findings. The first one is that basically in order to manage the circular dependencies, we decided to kick off actually a strategic AI program, which actually is on the vision side, which goes as an umbrella for all the projects. And we have 3 different streams that take care actually to support the projects. First, from a business, that's normal, I would say. Second, it's more on the technology side and the design side. I have not touched about the infrastructure that we need to put in place and to operate. And the third one, which is a little bit unusual, I would say, is the risk and the compliance. We have a dedicated one where we actually try to understand what is going on and what is the impact on the projects. And the second one, on the ecosystem, how we try to solve it, also it's standardization. So, and I think I already saw that somewhere in the presentation. I think we are really very strong advocate on standards. We have implemented OPC-UA and Umati, which is an open standard. So all our machines are talking OPC-UA. That means if anyone actually can talk OPC-UA, can connect to our machines, basically. And the second part is we are using an open and independent platform, actually, where we are putting our data so that we can share it. So, last, and I finish, what the policy and what we can see as an important role that the policy and the regulators can play, it's basically reinforcing these 2 things. First, reinforcing the open, the standards and the open specifications. And the second one, it also reinforce or at least facilitate the shared data spaces with, of course, a fair sharing of benefits. At the end, if you have been yesterday in the presentation, we had this nice presentation about healthcare where the benefits are also, we are a business, benefits are also important. But first, to have these spaces where the data can be shared with everyone, then we have this fuel that can actually make us move forward into the AI world. Okay, this is me. If you want to have a little bit more, I'm around. Don't hesitate for questions. And this is all for today. Thank you very much.